Hey guys, popping in here with some Thursday thoughts real quick because I'm going to share with you a little excerpt from the July Empowerment Pack, the month ahead reading. So if you're with me for the Empowerment Pack, you probably saw. But what I'm going to do is follow through with what I had talked about throughout our week ahead collective card pulls here this week when I kept talking about this cone of emotions, right? And how it felt really relevant this week because it's really been bringing me back into the channeled words that I brought through for this month, which was bringing in the scoops of wisdom, cones of love, right? And I kept referring to this cone of emotions, right? And so I know it's backwards for you here. It does come up in the video I'll be sharing with you. But what it shows is from a lower frequency to a higher frequency, this cone of emotions that we move through and how they all have their own vibrational frequency. And so it has emotions listed from lower vibration all the way to the highest vibration as shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride, courage, neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace, and enlightenment. Okay? So isn't it just so funny that we have our cones of love coming in inspired by this? And if you noticed today, or if you had a chance to see that I was sharing that Mila and I tapped in for Stars and Cards yesterday, that video is now available to watch our take on this upcoming full moon in Capricorn number 2 this weekend. We pulled a Queen of the Moon Oracle card, which I kind of shared the spoiler alert in the preview, was the word will on the card that's bringing forward like willingness, being of, I'll show you where willingness is on the cone of emotions. It comes in right here at around 310 hertz. So it's definitely getting up there into the uppers of the cone, right? The will. And this is that card, by the way. So you see this in the video, and we talk at length about this, but I was perseverating yesterday on the Elizabethan collar. I saw it right away and was like, it really feels like there's a symbolism there. And I said, I'm going to be looking this up as soon as we get off of here. And when I looked it up, mostly was finding, historical meaning towards the Elizabethan collar, which was, of course, a symbol of status, of wealth and power. And it was worn by men and women, and it evolved over time. So here we see this all-encompassing Elizabethan collar. And on the other end of the cards we pulled, we actually had this card leap out of the deck and fall to the ground. This all happens in the video before I pulled our tarot cards. It's the Death card, the card of release. And it's card 13, which also matches this card 13, both bringing in the frequency of 4, which is all about foundations, structures, what we're building, and so much more. And there's more in the video from there about all of this stuff we can't make up, guys, just saying. It's just crazy. So here I am looking at how interesting it is, and I say this even in the preview, the opposites of this one being all up, a cone up this way, and this one also creating that same energy through the opening, right? And in some cases, ripping. So we really get into the nitty gritty of, how this can express itself, right? So we see this coming in with these two cards. I knew that, when, for example, dogs or animals, when they have like a surgical procedure, they get that Elizabethan collar. Well, do you know the other term that they use to describe that? That is the what? Cone of shame, right? They call it the cone of shame when especially our pups have to wear that and they're so sad and they can't get at their wounds, and it's to protect them and to keep them from hurting their healing incisions or whatever it is that we're protecting them from, but it's called the cone of shame, right? So it's so fascinating, spiritual breadcrumbs aligning, that we're talking about shame at the bottom of this cone of emotions as the lowest vibrational emotion of shame, right? And this being something that we are invited collectively to release, to heal, to shed, and to transmute. And so keeping along all of those breadcrumbs, it's just so fascinating to me that we had this come forward looking at this Capricorn full moon. And, we were connecting yesterday, which was our Wednesday midweek blessing, where of course we got the demon card, right? We got the devil energy as a blessing. But we looked at this when we went through the intuitive messages and could see the temptation, the comfort zone, the pleasures and the things of the flesh and the things that come up as these vices, these addictions, these ways of numbing out, of tuning out, and freeing ourselves from that game, right? With the chess pieces and so much more that just goes right into the whole card pulls that we went on to do with these cards. But I just wanted to come in to cue up for you that I was now going to share an exclusive excerpt from the Empowerment Pack's month ahead reading that I did at the beginning of July, where I shared what was coming to me intuitively as to the theme that I brought in with the ice cream and the scoops of wisdom, cones of love, and how beautiful it is to see how it is really blossoming as we move through this month into what really, is available to us through these energies. The will, which this card is all about, having the will to make change. And the death card, of course, being about release. Oh, the last thing I wanted to say about the Elizabethan collar and its evolution is one of the things I read repeatedly, and I love this, is that, yes, it started as that whole thing, and they used to use like a wire to hold it up, and then they used starch. Women wanted to be able to show their bosom, and so over time, it became just across the back, where you might be familiar with just seeing the Elizabethan collar around the back of the dress, leaving the chest open. And so you just you cannot, as you may have seen in the preview, a Dirty Dancing movie reference was made, right? Let me show you again what's happening on the devil card. If you can see what's happening here. But the dirty dance that's going on in terms of, it can be dirty. It can be a lot, but there's this sense of, opening up and stripping away what is false, what is not authentic, in order for us to be more and more in touch, dropping into the heart and opening it up. Was, again, I couldn't place during the video why I was feeling so connected to that Elizabethan collar, and even talked about it being in this area connected to speech, expression, freedom, all of it. And like I said, look where willingness comes in. Willingness comes in right here in the blue of the throat chakra, our fifth chakra. So all that being said, I'm going to share with you now that little excerpt from the month ahead reading that I did at the beginning of the month. Wanted to share it with everyone because I do think it's an important piece of the puzzle that we've been putting together here collectively. And as always, I so appreciate each of you. I'm making my way through my post-vacation wrap up from the new moon card pulls. So those of you who've heard from me, those who are still waiting, I'm almost there, because we're about to pivot to that full moon in Capricorn number 2 reading that I'll be doing. And for anyone who is not with me for the Empowerment Pack this whole month, that is available a la carte. So if you'd like to join us for Sunday's full moon, I'm going to be diving into a new reading that is going to use a new spread for the blue moon that we will sort of weave back in with that first Capricorn full moon. What came up then, what's coming up now. That's the part 1, where we'll dive into the astrological aspects. We'll pull those cards. And then part 2 are your personal card pulls. So if you'd like to join for that, I will drop the link here that you can see how you can join for that as well. Okay, guys, I hope you're having a fantastic Thursday, and we'll talk soon. Much love. Okay, guys, let's dive right into our July channeled words and healing elements. So, okay, I had this theme coming in for me for a couple weeks now of ice cream. Okay, stay with me. Our theme coming in as ice cream. I don't mean to make you hungry as we talk about this. I came up with these channeled words: scoops of wisdom, cones of love. So I hope I do this justice. It makes sense in my head, but I might have brain freeze from ice cream, perhaps. Um, but there's this beautiful analogy coming in the most simple, childlike, playful, summertime, fun way. Because ice cream, of course, is a quintessential summer treat. But let's be honest, we can all dig into a pint of this frozen dessert at any time of year. And of course, whether you like yours smooth, creamy, sweet, tangy, or fruity and frosty, there's an ice cream variety for every taste. So when I scooped into this notion, I found out there was a lot more types of ice cream out there than even I realized. Here's some of the popular types. Perhaps you have a favorite: gelato, kulfi, which was something new I had never heard of before as a Middle Eastern form of ice cream; sherbet, ice popsicle, sorbet, frozen yogurt, Philadelphia ice cream. I feel a little, lifelong resident here of the Philadelphia area and never realized we had our own type of ice cream. Who knew? I thought it was just water ice, as we call it, water ice or Italian ice, which is like that fruit Italian ice that we see here in the Philadelphia area. We affectionately refer to it as water ice, water ice, but there's a play on the way that we say that word. Soft serve. We've got rolled ice cream, snow cream, mochi, and Don, which is something I'm not familiar with again. But I always like to put, just for you info nerds, if you're like me, a link to the resources where I find this stuff. Just my Aquarian nature. I go out Googling and you never know what I'm going to come up with. So here are these types of ice creams, along with some trendy ice cream shapes, which is a little precursor for our cone, if you will: waffle cone, sugar cone, cake cone, pretzel cones, and ice cream cones. Not to mention the myriad of ways you can consume this treat in all of these different forms of popsicles, ice cream cakes, ice cream sundae, and so much more. This was kind of born from this notion that, we all have our own flavor preferences, our own. Some people are probably thinking, oh, I don't like ice cream, it's too sweet, it's too cold, dairy intolerant, whatever your reasoning may be. It came about because of all of the different gifts and interests and just ways in which we bring things to the table, each of us, and how we're all unique and we have our own unique flavor profile, if we will. But this idea of just kind of dipping into all of the different magical perspectives and interpretations that are out there. This actually happened for me a couple weeks ago when I became aware of um, a potential copycat like energy that was out there, where someone was doing something very similar to something that I conceived of. I have no idea if this person is a copycat or not, because honestly, it's just a good idea and something that we're all tapping into with our creative energies. And so, after I kind of moved through like a little moment of the ego, I was able to really embrace the notion that it's beautiful that we're all bringing these different versions of our own personal treats to the world, and this idea that it's okay for us to just kind of scoop in and taste and try and be inspired and, uplifted by each of those different, unique, beautiful, and really diverse ways of expressing something that is just so fantastic as our own unique gifts and talents and abilities to share and appeal to people of all types in this world, because there's a scoop or a flavor of ice cream for everybody. So that's kind of where it came from. And then I just went from there, where I found out that there is a book that's called The Ice Cream Guide to Life. Here comes the phrase that I'm dipping into and borrowing: scoops of wisdom, flavorsome lessons on living fully. It's a book here by Shan Hurst. Never heard of it, never read it, but I'm intrigued. Because as I took a look at this beautiful analogy of ice cream as a guide to life and these scoops of wisdom, there's this invitation to dive into a delectable journey that really melds the sweetness of ice cream with a profound quest for a life lived fully. So, this author is said to be a remarkable individual who transformed adversity into strength. And the book serves as a guide, really as a blueprint for discovering joy, resilience, and rejuvenation. I thought it sounded amazing. And I thought it was a great, some inspirational energies and words that could come in here to help us to really tap into the opportunity to savor every moment, to learn to appreciate the full spectrum of life's flavors, from the sweet victories to the bitter challenges, and all through this engaging metaphor of ice cream. And it talks about some of the unique insights that come in through this author who, having lived a life that was richly lived with battles bravely fought, sharing wisdom that's authentic and layered, just as your favorite ice cream sundae. So it's an opportunity to laugh and learn with a sprinkle of humor. Oh, by the way, in Philadelphia, we call sprinkles jimmies. So if you're not familiar, I'm sharing some of these fun little terms with you. Sprinkles, jimmies of humor. This guide proves here that wisdom can be as enjoyable as your favorite dessert. I love it. And it's so perfect. I mean, I'm kind of getting goosebumps right now, not because I'm eating ice cream. I'm not. I wish I was. Because it's so perfect with what I'm personally moving through at this time. And I'm actually getting shown a little bit of the mirror here as my privilege to be like this author, drawing some unique insights from my life, richly lived, battles bravely fought, and bringing it forward in this fun and playful way that hopefully speaks to you. So, thank you for being here, by the way, and humoring me through this analogy. I've got one other part that I want to dive into here with you before we get into our card pulls. Okay, so here we get into the cones of love. So, scoops of wisdom, cones of love. I had to pull out one of my favorite visuals that you may have seen me share before. This cone of emotions or energetic frequency. I use this a lot in my colored healing sessions. I've talked about this when it comes to taking a look at our physical health and well being and the impact that emotions and energy have, and how it may show up in the body, but also just as a visual for, when we are deciding where we want to put our energy and seeing the vibrational scale, from the lowest vibrations, here it's shown as shame, to the highest vibrational expression of enlightenment and beyond. And so, scoops of wisdom, cones of love, love highlighting that 500 hertz frequency on this scale, where you see that from there on, it's all an ice cream dream. Love, joy, peace, enlightenment. So, the point being, though, that it takes all of these emotions to create this cone of love. That in order to reach love, we also experience every other layer of this cone, right? We move through all of these emotions and they all serve. They all have a purpose, including the shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, right? All of these different layers that we have and do and will experience throughout our human lifetime here in this fool's journey, right? So I really wanted to just bring this forward to show you, something that seems so silly and fun and light, and it is, can also be so deeply profound as thinking about an ice cream cone and thinking about the scoops of wisdom that we put into this cone through the experience of all of these different emotions that we work with, that have been gifted to us as tools to help us to raise our vibration, to ascend. That's really what we're doing here. So we build on that through all of these layers. And so that's sort of the foundation of what's bringing us into this month of scoops of wisdom, cones of love. You can pause now if you'd like to go get yourself a treat, or if I've made you hungry, or anything else. I hope you're enjoying it. Let's roll in now 2-hour card pulls where you're going to see some of the beautiful decks that we're going to be working with this month. I can't wait to show you. Let's take a look.